For Crema Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dhlamini. Former ANC MP and now ADeC leader Dr. Makhosi Khoza joins me to discuss her new political party, African Democratic Change. Welcome, Dr. Khoza.
Thank you, Sane, for having me.
Yes. Some comrades have been very devastated, actually, and they were saddened by your resignation from the African National Congress. Can you tell us about your history in the party?
Well, I've been associated, I had been associated with the ANC since I was 12 years old. That was 1982. And I took the decision to resign from the party last year in September. And it wasn't an easy decision. Number one, I had to ask myself, is the ANC still relevant? And the conclusion I drew was that the ANC was established in 1912 after the establishment of the Union of South Africa, which was really merging all the British colonies together with some of the territories of the Boers and so forth. And the African people were excluded. The ANC was then formed as a response to that in 1912. So basically the ANC primary mandate, the reason for its establishment and its mission was to achieve universal suffrage. Now, 1994, we got the universal suffrage. In 1996, we were then able to adopt the new constitution of the Republic, which means that all of us as South Africans, irrespective of our culture, cultural backgrounds, racial, whatever, we are all equal citizens and we are equal before the law. Now, my view is that the ANC has been able to achieve its mission, and part of the reason why the ANC is so riddled with corruption, it's because it's no longer having a mission that it is pursuing, because the mission that it was pursuing has already been fulfilled. And hence it is no longer able to deal with the issues of making sure that they build a true non-racial character of South Africa. They are unable to ensure that the economy grows. They are unable to ensure that corruption is dealt with. And they are unable to ensure that the young people are taking over the organization. Now, Sane, you know, the ANC elective conference, if you look at the age profile of the people that are in that NEC, you shall see that you are really, and maybe let me just make a good example of their National Working Committee. The youngest person in that executive is Lamula, who is about 40 years old. The other person that may be younger is Togoti Diza. She's over 55 years old. Now, we have a younger population. We need to get South Africans to begin to understand that the future of this country is in the hands of the younger generation.
So what inspired you to form this party? Because you could have done better in mathematics. I know you're very passionate about that subject, or even join the civil society.
Frankly, I do understand that establishing a political party is very difficult. And one of the things that I'm currently battling with is to ask myself, what exactly do we want to change in this country? And one of the things that I think is going to be very important for us to do in this country is to address the poor quality of education and our performance in mathematics and science. Right now, I'm still trying to figure out whether fighting the elections in 2019 is going to be, whether we have to be fighting the elections in 2019 or whether I should be using this time to entrench all these books that I have published. You know, I've published books with Cambridge University Press. I've also done, I've also published the mathematics one and the dictionary, which has the new alphabetical logic order of isiZulu, because the idea is to elevate African languages as tools of prosperity and participation in intellectual discourse. So one has to find a way of making sure that that doesn't suffer at the expense of really trying to get into parliament. Because at the end of the day, frankly, I'm less about political positions. I'm more about significant change that can impact the majority of our people.
I know you've had like other positions like deputy mayor in Pietermaritzburg.
I was 26 years old at that time. So it's not a lack. You know, other people are still really participating in politics because they are really after positions. And I've held very senior positions from when I was very, very young. And I've been CEO of SALGA, I've been CEO of the KwaZulu-Natal Local Government Association, I've been the head of public sector finance at Standard and Corporate and Merchant Bank. And really, my life is about being significant. It's really not about making populist noises in parliament. And maybe, in a way, it's a disadvantage on the other hand, because I think the kind of politics that we have in South Africa are very populist. You know, you've seen even the ANC is also talking about expropriating land without compensation. And I'm not going to be supporting something like that. But that's a populist statement. That's a statement that can be, that many people will probably, that will resonate well with our people on the ground. But they won't tell them, you know, the fact that if you are going to do that, number one, you will be negating the Constitution. Number two, if you are going to do that, you are actually going to create you are going to create disunity in South Africa. In other words, you are going to destroy social cohesion in society, because then you are going back into a situation where we are bringing back the racial tensions. And I don't think that's the way of doing things. So I'm saying it's both a good and a bad thing, because in politics, if you want numbers, you've got to be saying lies. And I'm not a good liar. I'm just not a liar. I'm finding it so hard to lie to people and promise them something that I know very well we are not going to be able to achieve.
So tell us about the 16 other parties that took part at the 2016 elections. You
know, let me tell you, one of the reasons why I agreed to be part of ADeC and to lead ADeC, the African Democratic Change, it was because for a change, it was not an idea of a single political or a single individual who decided that, you know what, I want to start a party and therefore I want to start it. To me, it was really yearning for change, because all these organizations, whether you are talking about Forum for Service Delivery that fought the local government elections in Northwest, and by the way, they have about 37 seats now. They have another seat in local government in the Free State. You are talking about the United Front of Civics. All these organizations that fought local government elections, they have seats around the country. They don't agree with the DA. They don't agree with the ANC. They don't agree with the EFF. They just want to be focusing more on what people want. In other words, they want to move beyond ideologies. They want to focus on what can change the lives of South Africans significantly. And I think that is what attracted me into agreeing, into leading ADeC. And I now have to be balancing what these civil society organizations want in terms of having a voice in parliament. Because the other thing you must understand, the reason why they came together, it was really because only, as you know, in April last year, in 2017, South African marched. They demanded that Jacob Zuma, the President Jacob Zuma, steps down. The African National Congress, ironically, which was when it was formed in 1912, it declared itself as the Parliament of the People. And it became an antithesis when it actually negated what the people were saying. They were not saying ANC, step aside. They were saying ANC, please, we want you to remove Zuma from being the president because he is not promoting a good moral and ethical social fiber. And the ANC didn't listen. So it is within that context that all these organizations felt that they needed to have their voices in parliament. In other words, they are saying civil society must have a voice in parliament. We must not rely on political parties because political parties go to parliament. They are more about ideologies, and sometimes they forget the fact that they get their mandate from the voters. So really ADeC was established to bridge that gap. And it's just going to be something that one will have to balance between having to push this, because I really do feel that African languages have to be elevated. I also feel that I have a role to play in terms of making sure that we promote mathematics and science. And unfortunately for me, because I invented this thing of I'm actually the one that discovered that isiZulu is mathematically formulated, and I reduced it into formulas. I'm the only one that can teach the trainers, people who can teach others, so that it can be rolled out in schools. So I've got to be juggling around, leading this political party, but at the same time, not compromising the mission of getting the younger South Africans to be, you know, mathematically and science savvy, the same way as we all have to be technologically savvy. I mean, we are living in the digital age. What can we do if we don't have mathematics and science? We're not going to be able to participate significantly in the fourth industrial revolution.
Also, tell us about the book that you've written in honor of Oliver Tambo.
Well, that book is really the one that is exactly that. I have a book that changed the entire noun cluster system. You know, in isiZulu, other people don't know that if your name is Anele and if your name is Zanele, both those names, they mean the same thing, but they belong to the different noun clusters. If you say Anele, you are saying probably we've had enough of the girls, of amantombazane. It can't be izintombi. So Anele and Zanele is the same name if you are translating it into English. But if you are going into Zulu, you have to be specific. Because if it's Zanele, we know that it's about Izingane. It can't be about amantombazane because Izingane belong to a different noun cluster. So that is one book that came with the noun cluster arrangement of isiZulu that bring finality on what the linguist remember that in isiZulu most of what is learned in schools currently is what Doak and Meinhof, a German linguist and a British linguist, you know, have written about our languages. It's the first time that you actually have somebody who speaks the language. And I'm not a linguist, by the way. I'm more of a systems developer that has come up with the language, with a system that is coherent, which is why I was able to discover that actually this language is mathematically formulated. Now, the other textbook, which is dedicated to Oliver Tambo, is the one that actually deals with the mathematics part of isiZulu. For example, a very simple thing, you know, if I were to say to you, translate the word ayazi in English, what would you say? You may say ayazi, you may say they know, right? But I can argue to you and say that word also means don't know.
True.
You know, like amantombazane ayazi ukuthi enzani, you know, the girls know what they are doing.
Yeah.
But if it's singular, intombazane ayazi ukuthi yenzani. It's the same. Now, the only way you can understand that is if you understand that isiZulu is actually pure mathematics. isiZulu, like the same way as you will use the Y factor in mathematics, you use the Y factor here because in isiZulu you can't have vowels following one another in one word. In isiZulu, there are strict rules that regulate the frequency, the sequencing, and the position of a vowel in a word. And that is why when you are studying this language, you have to understand the noun cluster system. You can't understand this language without leveraging on the abstract science of numbers in order to understand the science of it. And I do believe that Verwoerd picked up that this language was mathematics. Hence he said, no African child can study mathematics. Because he knew that if Africans knew that their language was mathematics, they would be excelling. So I have to be trying to bring that mathematical intelligence, that heritage back to Africans so that they can excel in the language. So basically, Oliver Tambo loved mathematics so much. And a very interesting study that I did, I went and presented at Saheti, not so far from here. And I also went at St. Stedians. I presented my work to them, you know, on mathematics and the relationship between mathematics and isiZulu. And guess what these teachers told me? All of them, they were saying to me, we never understood why even white children who are good in mathematics, who get straight A's in mathematics, they do well in isiZulu. Wow. And you've just explained, you've just answered something that has been troubling us for a very long time. Because we couldn't understand why children who are English speakers would be doing, who are good in mathematics, will excel in understanding isiZulu. And when I actually showed them, they were like, we are so shocked. You know, we feel like go home and do this thing with any word, any noun word of isiZulu that has prefix isi, okay? Where A, the first vowel, is 1, and your last vowel is 26. Add up your singular word, which is isipuni or isisu or whatever. Add up that, okay? And also add up your plural noun. And I can tell you the factor there is going to be 7. You then have to take the bigger number and subtract the smaller number. It will give you 7 in all the noun words with prefix isi. If you take the noun with O prefix vowel U, the singular noun prefix vowel U, that when they are in plural, they become O, they will always give you 6. No matter what is it, whether it's umama or mama, ukandaganda or kandaganda, ubanana or banana or whatever, it will always give you 6. Think about that. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I want Oliver Tambo in honor of him because he loved the mathematics. He loved the science. South Africa is number 138 out of 138 in the world. We are number last. How can we be number last when we have our own lingua franca that is pure mathematics? It doesn't make sense to me.
That's interesting. Going back to politics now, some people have been asking us to ask you, would you go back to the ANC if it happens that Zuma is removed?
Frankly, I won't. As I said, the ANC, in my view, has fulfilled its mission. And I told you that the ANC was formed in 1912 as a response to the establishment of the Union of South Africa, which excluded black Africans. Now we have a constitution in the Republic that grants everyone universal suffrage. As long as you are 18 years old, you can vote. Secondly, there is no black nor white now in the new South Africa. Now what we need a new vehicle that is going us to the next, to take us to the next level. I am a feminist. And the ANC, you must remember that in the ANC, took the ANC 30 years to admit women as members in the ANC. And you can see already how the ANC is undoing all the gains that we have made since 1994. Today, in the top 6, there's only one woman left. And what is hers? She's in a deputy position. So I am saying, as a feminist, I don't believe that the ANC is in the better position to deal with the patriarchal issues in our society. I also think the ANC has lost its non-racial character, and I don't think it will gain its non-racial character. You just have to count the people. How many in the NEC, how many white people do we have there? How many Indian people do we have there? How many colored people do we have there? You have one Indian, you have 2 whites, you have 1 colored. That's what you have in the executive of 86. And I am saying, if you want to build a non-racial character of this country and you want it to unite the society, you must be deliberate in your plan to reflect that non-racial character of the organization so that everybody feels that they belong. If you don't do that, you are going to perpetuate the racial stereotypes and whatnot, and people will start organizing themselves along tribal lines, along black and white, Indian, and so forth. So I wouldn't go. I wouldn't go back. I think South Africa needs younger generation. The ANC, even if you look at its own executive, it doesn't really reflect our population. I have young people. I'm 48 years old, but I feel like I'm a dinosaur because the majority of the members of ADeC are born in 1984. And we already have a membership of over 20,000. And in that 20,000, over 90% of them are born in 1984. And I think that's the party of the future. And you have Indian, colored, Africans, and so forth. And I think that's what South Africa needs.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, my love.
That was African Democratic Change leader Dr. Makhosi Khoza speaking to Creamer Media's Polity about her political party, ADeC.